Sinus. Would you like to please introduce yourself, Sinus? Dr. Orser just joined as well. And any comments or questions that you have for the audience, Sinus, please proceed.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Sainath Banerjee. I'm an anthropologist by training and currently working with as a consultant with Asian Development Bank, New Delhi, India, to support National Urban Health Mission to the Government of India. It's a pan-India program which is being implemented in 1,000+ cities across India. So thank you for this very rich and interesting, discussion. No specific questions, but I have a kind of comment from Rima ji's, a follow-up comment. When she talked about that, we have to depend on the local production, local consumption, and which is supported by Dr. Alex, that we need to develop the capacity locally. Now, I just wanted to, reflect on the urbanization concept, especially in Asian context and Indian context. I see the whole urbanization process is very artificial. It's taken an example of Bangalore, or maybe a satellite township near Delhi called Gurgaon, which was 20 years back was a sleepy village of Haryana state. And then there was suddenly, automobile industry came, software engineering department came, and other people. It's attracted the attentions of a whole lot of people from outside. And as a result of that, it pushed the local people at the periphery of the city. So what happens to the city? As a result of that, the neo-rich community, they started depending on all the utility, private utility, and less on the public sector. So if they want to drink water, they are consuming the water, they're collecting water and taking water from the shops, the bottled water, and the public utility services as a result is going weak. It is also equally applicable for public health service delivery. So what is happening, a city which is completely dependent on the artificial kind of system, which is not focused to develop a robust, public health delivery system, then when a disease like COVID appear, the whole private sector surrender, give up to that particular pandemic, and with a weak public health care delivery, they're not in a position to respond to the crisis. So now I just wanted to, so what would be the kind of call for action? As in continuation to the Rima-ji and Alex, what they said, I just wanted to add one dimension, that we need to have local planning and local capacity building and to address, this kind of crisis in future.
Thank you very much. Professor Orser, any comments or questions from you to the panel? And please introduce yourself.
Well, thank you. The name is Barb Orser, and I am calling in from Ottawa, Canada. I'm a board member of WAY and a full professor at the University of Ottawa, Telfer School of Management. And my work has examined women's entrepreneurship in North America and the Middle East. And my interest and question, actually two. The first is, and perhaps the governor might speak to this, and I see Rima is not on the panel, but in terms of policy and program support at this time in response to COVID-19, what would you like to see introduced to support the micro, informal, and women entrepreneurs in your communities? And coupled with that, what is the role of universities and post-secondary institutions? Because you did mention that in your comments. So what might we do, including business schools, to address some of these needs?
Just development and markets.
Professor Governor Anjulu?
Thank you so much. I personally think that from what I've seen and from experience, policies that we have said that we must empower women, and this is the time that we can actually show meaningfully that we can support women by training them and having them to access markets for what they are producing. Right now, we have market. I cannot even meet the market for, at the moment, PPEs that we are producing right now, the masks that I'm producing right now. And although in the past we have helped women with empowerment funds, we never connected the empowerment funds with the market. And that's why I'm today saying that we have the market, not just from COVID, a challenge that we have. I had already connected the women with the production of uniform for our officers, our police, our, our defense forces, among others. But I need to connect more now with the international community. Last year, I visited Dallas. In Dallas, they saw the things that we are connecting here. And we got certificate of export processing. And now I need to continue training them so that they can make high quality that can meet the international market. And that way they'll be able to sustain themselves and their families. Mark you, the young women that I'm training are not even going to school beyond primary education, but they're making very good garments. So we need now technology and market, training, building skills. For me, Margot, women have been lip service for far too long. Let us now do something so that it is sustainable for them. They can take care of their families, take care of their children. When they elected me in 2017, they told me, let your leadership change our lives. They are not expecting handouts at all. They are expecting me to show them what to do, where the market is, and they'll be able to go on their own. So what we need right now is to get them more trained. I want to train over 1,000 women. We have them, they have come forward, and I need the machines. Like now I need, stitching machines. I have the certificate from our Kenya Bureau of Standards to stitch even mosquito nets. I know after this COVID and after the rains that you have had, we are going to have malaria. I need to prepare myself. I need to start making mosquito nets. Mosquito nets honestly do not have to come from US or from China or from Japan. They can come from Kitui. They can made in Kitui, my county, and I supply. And these women will have some sustainable way of living with their families and money in their pockets. That's what I'm looking for. I say I do not want to be given handouts, that we have put safety nets for you for this time. Then what happens next year? I want to be helped so that I can help my women and my young people to move.
And so, Barbara, I guess from your perspective, part of that training on entrepreneurship skills and
Yes.
Ability to understand markets and their demands would be very integral.
And the quality.
Yes.
You ensure that we produce quality and ensure that they have the understanding of work ethic, that they can go and work and go home. When next time I'm talking to you, I'll send you a video to see our plan in the factory where we are working, our plan where we are training these young people, women and men, to do the construction of roads, construction of houses. And we just want to ensure that we can also start producing the raw materials. The materials are all very expensive. They're coming from outside the country. And that makes the PPEs and the masks very expensive for even people to use, to buy them. And I cannot afford to give them for free. And that's how it is, the support that we can get. When we talk about empowering women, for me, it's not money for them to go and do business. It's for them to be able to produce and to have a steady market so that they can sell their goods and their products.
Okay, thank you very much. That's
Can
very
I comment slightly on this? I think just two quick points. One, to Senat's point about the gaps in public infrastructure and services. I think it is very clear within urban settings and across sub-Saharan Africa. The African Development Bank estimates that the funding gap for infrastructure funding gap in Africa is to the tune of about $107 billion every year. So Africa doesn't have maybe 70% of the money it needs to invest in infrastructure each year. And from some analysis they did, over since 1980, if you look at the per capita growth in infrastructural investments and stock of infrastructure, many African countries have actually regressed, that we have far less today than we did in 1980. And so we have had very rapid growth in our population. And I think that's one of the challenges we have in Africa that we also have to address in many ways. If we are going to double the population from 1.2 billion now to 2.4 billion by 2050, which is in 30 years, it means we have to also double everything we need. The number of schools, teachers, hospitals, doctors, nurses, roads, houses, and all of those in order to maintain the current levels of inadequate coverage of these services. And we do not have those resources. And when we don't invest in those basic services that build the human capital, then we do not reap the benefits of that large population in some ways. Now, to the point that has been made with respect to how do we support this local entrepreneurship? You know, the experience of many countries that have industrialized is that when they started, nobody thought anything of their products. You think of the 1970s and 80s, made in Taiwan was like a fake. Made in China 20 years ago was like fake. And that's how you define fake materials. Today, everything in your house is made in China. And I think for us is to start somewhere. And I congratulate again Governor Ngilo for taking that bold step. If we can produce what we need and we start from there, and then we link this local production to our knowledge systems and universities, so we can actually introduce innovation and improvements in the quality of these products and materials, then it moves from just meeting the local demand to meeting the national demand and regional demand. And what we have seen is the huge disconnect between our local academic and knowledge institutions and some of the local activities that we are taking. So we do the same thing that we've been doing for 20, 30, 40 years without improving on the quality of those and the processing and the value addition and all of those. And in that case, we begin to lose momentum and ground as other people copy that, improve on it, and make it better than we're able to make it. So finding ways to connect these local innovations and local productions to our knowledge institutions so that they can actually look at them, test better materials that we can use locally, test better ways of producing them in better quality and all of those. I think we can move forward in a much more strategic and coordinated way in building that capacity at the local level.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Fernando, any thoughts based on your observations in Latin America?
Yeah, well, I just want to make a point that while I completely agree with the members of the panel and some of the questions that we need to strengthen and see things happening at the local level in terms of empowerment, we should not let off the hook two other levels, the nation state level and the global multilateral institutions. One thing is to say we need to see these things happen at the local level and we need empowerment at the local level. But public goods and merit goods are not simply built at the local level. I mean, you do require, this is not about handouts as it was mentioned, but you do require pooling of resources at the nation and at the global level to reach those local communities. Otherwise, we are simply trying to solve things at a level that, while needed, is impossible to do it by itself. I do agree, and it's wonderful and encouraging the kind of actions that are being taken at the local level. But Latin America learned this lesson the hard way, and it is that to change relative prices, to create infrastructure projects, to develop the capacity at the local level, you need the resources and the redistributional capacity of the state nation, our nation state, and we need the multilateral governance institutions to step in so that redistribution between countries also takes place. That doesn't take anything away from my complete agreement that the local level is where we should be looking at for things to happen and for empowerment to take place. But this requires an alliance with the nation state and with the global institutions.
Fully agree. Fully agree. Because at the end of the day, it's about making the pie bigger for everybody so that everybody is better off. And if communities start that momentum, then the onus is on the national government to ensure that there's coherence and that the policy measures are aligned to support that. The other part of this also, I think that there is what I hear from the governor in terms of access to markets is in parallel, and Barbara, you probably would agree, is being able to tap into global value chains, because that's where the Chinese succeeded at the end of the day. Yes. And that's why they have the markets. And they were able to establish their role and their value in the global value chain structure. So it's a stage where that production capacity in China is critical for production capacity in other countries. And so Barbara, from an entrepreneurial perspective, I think also there's a role for the global private sector. There's a role for the national private entities. And we need to link those things, because that's how the small producer can then leverage that power to access international markets, given the way in which the global trading system has been developed.
I'd certainly appreciate a perspective on how the state, the regional, and the national governments can deploy public procurement. We see very mixed results around the world. I think the corporate sector through supplier diversity is far outpacing government. And I'm just wondering about your experiences and thoughts about better deploying strategically the buying power of your governments.
Seems as though Governor Njulu has figured out a way to tap into some of those procurement procurement activities. But are you succeeding in doing it at the national level, Governor Njulu? When you
I can tell
to the military, is that coming from a national level?
Yes, it's coming. The fact that we put this garment production industry here, and the fact that I knew that this uniform was coming from outside the country, I was able to go and say, this is government to government. Kitui County is a government, and therefore I can supply direct and you pay us. So I increase my revenue here. I employ more people. I'm saying that China is now a very developed country, so they should be buying much more from us than us buying from them. I will get the machines from them. But eventually, I do hope, and I hear what Professor Elsa is saying, that truly anything that was made in China 20 years ago was fake in Africa. But now everything in our homes is made in China, made in Taiwan, made in Japan. I am looking for a day when things made in Kitui will get into the markets in Europe. And I have every reason to believe that will be done. I'll train young people, they'll make quality, I'll use the machines. I'm soon hoping that I can get to UN in New York and say that our mosquito nets from Kitui will be supplied in the region, and that mosquito nets will not come from Turkey and from Japan. They can come from Kitui. That is how I'm going to employ more people. Women must now be given that kind of support. who are doing the work.
Any final comments or questions from our community here?
I think let me just make my final comment, because we also now looking at lockdown. By 6 o'clock, we must all go home, and it's now 6 o'clock here.
Okay.
Saying that from the World Bank, any support you really give to us, let us show you the results that we want and the planning that you have put in place so that you can give us the support. Not putting money before we show you what we want to achieve and how we want to achieve it and within what time. If that is done, I think we African women will be better off and will be happier. And then clear monitoring. You can monitor what we are doing, but first and foremost, give us the knowledge. I feel confident with these young women, so many of them going home happily because they got the knowledge to do the work that they are doing. They make the very good masks that every Kenyan now is asking for it. Since I do not have the capacity here in Kitui, they're still bringing some more masks from China. I wish I could have the machine to produce the highest number, and these women continue to produce other garments and other products. I thank you so much once again for putting us in this forum.
Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone. Thank you to Professor Orser and Sainath Banerjee, Dr. Banerjee, also for contributing to the discussion. Thank you again, and look forward to being in touch. I will send a follow-up note and so you can be informed on how to access the recording.
Thank you all of
Thank
you.
you, everyone. Thank you, Dr.
Bye.
Margot.
Be safe.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.